What up, everyone? Welcome to Basic Binges, part of the Nom Talk network. On this show, we review popular shows that are out right now while eating or drinking our favorite binge-worthy snacks and drinks. And don't forget to redeem those channel points, because I know what those are. I'm your host, Jefferson, and right now I am having Burakusunda chocolate bar with canned water. And today we have two new guests tonight. Not new to the network, but new to Junji Ito Maniac. We're watching Junji Ito Maniac, by the way. First up, again, we have Kenji.
Hey, everybody, good to see you again. And again, hello to the new guests. And I'm here with water, but it's in this really sporty mug that's representing my dad's D&D campaign, as well as the shirt. So yeah, the Gatewalker Saga, definitely check it out. Yeah, but just good old clean water.
What's the Twitch channel again? Is it just
it's a KD in LA. We'll put the stuff in the Gatewalkers. There he is. Yeah, my dad's in the chat. So
oh snap! What up, yeah. Kenji's dad?
So KD in LA. That's the Twitch channel. It's every Sunday at usually it's usually on the weekends. I don't know if it's Saturday or Sunday, but usually it's Sundays from 1 to 3 p.m. on Sundays. Yeah. Pacific time. Yeah, on the Twitch.
Yeah. Awesome. So all right, cool. And then we got Mikey Flores.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What do you have? What do you have?
So I've got this Unreal chocolate, dark chocolate and coconut.
Unreal.
Yeah, dude, they're so good.
Yeah, they're really good. They're like good for gluten-free, type of stuff. And then just a water, because I'm basic.
I feel like I've seen that somewhere. Was that a Crafties?
Yeah, I bought these all the time at work.
You bought them at Crafties, right?
Yeah.
Nice. I recognize that now. And I like your black pink in the background.
Oh yeah. Gotta represent.
And over here, our last guest for the night, Aerith Doe.
Hello. Aerith or Aaron, you can call me. What I have to eat. Well, I just came back from work. I think I just reheated my rice cakes and fish cakes, to be honest with you. I just need to eat something because I actually have like a drink. So wow, it's blurred. It's a high noon, and it's just a vodka and soda. It's mango.
It's blurred because it's censored.
Yeah, it's censored. Sorry.
It's alcohol. It just knows.
Yeah, sorry, it's alcohol. I can't show it.
But this fish cake and rice cake thing, what you got?
I literally made it like yesterday. So it's fish cake and rice cake, and then I put some pork belly in it with some cheese.
Ooh.
So yeah, and I'm trying to eat it right now.
Nice.
And trying not to put it on my shirt because it's red and I don't want to spoil anything. So
actually dinner.
Yeah, actually dinner, because okay, I'm a little hungry.
Is Aerith? Do you cosplay Aerith?
What's funny is that I used to cosplay.
Yeah.
But because of work and because of just everything, I stopped cosplaying at all. And I used to go to Anime Expo. I used to go to all these cons.
Yeah.
And so now it's just kind of like, maybe I'll go for one day. And you know what? I'll dress up as Miku for the meme of it. Because haha, Miku, waiting at a food truck and drinking alcohol, that's funny. So
with a leak.
Yeah, with a leak, exactly. And I do have a leak too. So
oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Like the cosplay life can be draining, especially when you have like a full schedule. Exactly. I don't know how people cosplay Soichi. Junji Ito character Soichi. Perfect segue, by the way. There's a character named Soichi that people cosplay, and this is his first appearance in the anime episode. Right. We're talking about episodes 3 and 4, and Soichi shows up in episode 4, and this was my first exposure to him in animation form. And he's just like a popular character that people cosplay as, and I'm like, what do the people see in him? But first off, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about episode 3. Episode 3. Holy shit. let's as a summary of episode 3 in general. It's called The Hanging Balloons. And it's about these huge balloons with people's faces on them as they lure in and attract people in this part of Japan and attract them to their death. That's it in a nutshell. and it was as a manga, it must have been, for manga readers at the time, must have been nightmarish to think about this scenario. Kenji, what were your thoughts on this episode? I guess we could also like talk about like the J idol in the beginning, because I remember you saying, someone pointed out that J idol showed up before.
Oh, I did not pay attention that closely, but like I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Like, like I'm sure, he's, Junji does probably put that kind of like metaverse into his, his story, I'm sure. I personally I actually had no idea that this was originally a manga and it was put into like anime form. So because of that, like I actually didn't read this one. So far with episode 1 and 2, I've just been like, okay. But then with episode 3, like just this story, I'm like, see, this is the stuff that this is so Junji Ito. Like this is like 100% like his kind of thing, like so macabre. Or I don't know how to pronounce it. Macabre.
Macabre, yeah.
Like macabre.
There we go. Macabre. The R is silent. And so is the E. It's like, it's like chiropractor. But anyways,
kind of is, yeah.
But anyways, but yeah, it's exactly like what Junji Ito is, and it's one of those ones where it's like I wish, like this is such a strong one. Like I almost wish this was like episode 1. Like I wish it was the first one that we saw, because episode 1 was a little bit too lighthearted, and then episode 2 was like had some stuff in it, but it wasn't necessarily very strong. But like this episode is so strong and it's so well done. So like I honestly, it's like, I mean, I just wish that they turned the gore up on it. That's the only thing I wish about it, was that they turned the gore up. But yeah, that's just me. I'm gonna pass this off to the other 2 guests now. Who tag Aerith? What did you think?
Well, in terms of, it's hard for me to, start binging on shows because I'm just so busy with work and such. So today I knew it was, very important. So I tried to cram as much as I could while I was working. But I do, of course, I need to rewatch it once more. But I remember seeing the images of the balloon heads, and they're just so disturbing. Like I love it in cartoon form, and I like watching it animated on the screen, but just something about the images well drawn, it's so the amount of depth and the amount of detail that go into it is so disturbing. Like that's all I can really think about. And of course I think with the Soichi, I think a lot of people started cosplaying him because of just how, I guess, he looks. First of all, when it comes to cosplay, it's just kind of your most basic character. What can I do with this? And then they just kind of add on to it. So it's just like Tomie, same thing. Just the same sort of style, but then they start adding their gore to it.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah. To add on to the whole animation versus manga that you were talking about, with these hanging balloons, they must have hit harder in the manga, because I thought this was a better attempt than the first 2 episodes of the anime. This was one of the better attempts at animating Junji Ito's style. But yeah, the finer details is still lost to me. Like every time there was like a jump scare with a floating head, I feel like, man, this could have been much more haunting in the manga with more finer details, and just something is lost to me in animation. Just
right,
it's still not there. But again, this was a better attempt. Mikey, what'd you think of this episode?
Well, for me, this was the first episode because I didn't watch the first 2 ones.
You don't need to. And
I thought this was like a great way to start it off, for me at least. I thought it was very creepy. I rarely get like creeped out by anime or anything scary like that, any scary anime like that. But this one, something just very unnerving about the way they look. The balloons, just the way they look, it's just very unnerving. And I thought it was great. I was really interested in the story of where they came from. Never explained, but I mean, it's that's part of the fun of it too, just like coming up with your own theories in your own mind. And
yeah,
it was really cool. I loved it.
I love the Junji Ito. A lot of Junji Ito horror comes from the whole unexplainable versus innocent people, and this was just one of the best examples of that. Like sure, we can talk about Uzumaki and how that is its own unexplainable horror, but like, man, the whole idea of seeing your face a ballooned up in the air and it's going to kill you, God.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Okay. The part when the dad tried to like cover his neck and like, you know what? That's a good idea. Hold on. He might be on. Oh. Never mind. I was trying to like, it made me think like, can people just put on just put on one of those spiky chokers? Like 12 of those shits and put them on their head. What can they do? But in general,
well, you know, no one tried
nothing, because we saw the brother just straight up just impaled with the umbrella, and like strung up like a scarecrow. So clearly, there's nothing we can do about it.
I don't know if this is I don't know if it's in the manga or not, but does anybody try to like cut the ropes, the nooses, or is that in there?
No one did in the anime. In the manga,
not in the anime, yeah, but I mean in the manga, I don't know if that's a thing.
I'd have to look it up.
I know that when they poked it, it caused the girl to shrivel up.
Right, which is creepy. That was pretty damn creepy. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my favorite parts. Yeah,
I thought for sure there was like a catch. Like that, the guy with the crossbow had the right idea, but as soon as knowing that's Junji Ito, I was like, "There's a catch. It's probably gonna have a mirror effect." And like, oh, there it is. It's gonna be an Uno reverse card.
Yeah.
Oh man, it gave the faces gave me a Attack on Titan vibe. The Attack on Titan.
Yeah, me too.
The Titan faces.
Yep.
The creepy face of it all. Does anybody want to go into? Does anyone want to use their big brain and talk about like what this whole thing represented? Because there's always like that underlying thing in Junji Ito, and I'm trying to like while watching, I was like trying to like figure it out. My girlfriend was like talking about how this was whatchamacallit, when the idol was driven to suicide in the beginning. She thought about like, what if this is about like J Idol expectations and it being like the public expectations of J Idol is what drove her to suicide, probably. If you know what I mean. I think Mikey, you kind of have a thing for that.
I thought that too. Like when it was brought up that the first victim was a J Idol, I was like, okay, this is probably like a commentary on like, you know, ego or body, you know, body shaming or something like that.
Sure.
But then when it started going with everybody else, I'm like, oh, okay, so maybe there's something deeper here that I was not looking into. So I'm not quite sure. I haven't really come up with you know, I've been trying to like figure out what it meant, but I'm like, it makes you think though. It's really good.
Yeah. I could not, other than unexplainable versus the innocence, I couldn't figure out what this was, but it was very unnerving and it got under my skin. That's the best way I can put it. Really well done as an episode. Again, I just wish that there was more finer details shown. I don't know if this is the animation studio to do Junji Ito horror best. That might be for the Uzumaki people, whenever the hell that's coming out. Again, I keep name dropping the Uzumaki adaptation whenever that happens. Real quick, Q Ball in the chat has a question for all of us. Do you prefer live Japanese horror or anime horror? Let's start off with Aerith.
Live Japanese horror.
Yeah,
it's just something about the practical effects. You know, going back to, let's just say Godzilla. Going back to the practical effects, just something about, you know, that seeing all the hard work going into the special effect kind of makes it pop out more. Of course, with a bunch of CGI that we have now, it's always nice to see a practical effect worked. And sometimes, you know, watching older films that have practical effects, sometimes they get you a little bit more rather than a CGI, because I guess it's a bit more expected. And then going back to the animation, I think it's I don't want to say, the Netflix smoothing, but I want to say because, other animes have come out with Netflix that look so smooth. So I want to say maybe that's the reason why. But if another animation studio probably did it with finer detail and a little bit more rougher edge, then maybe it could have worked out.
Sure. There is something about the Netflix smoothiness of this show.
Right.
But the same could be said for the Crunchyroll adaptation that happened a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I on topic of like live action Japanese horror, anime horror, what you said about practical effects, that's a good point, because me, Kenji, and Mikey were just talking about the new Shin Ultraman and how the character, the Ultraman character looks interesting as a CGI,
right,
as a CGI model instead of the usual tokusatsu guy in a suit, rubber, fighting rubber monsters.
Right.
Kenji, what's your thoughts on either live action Japanese horror or anime horror?
Well, I just want to point out that what I actually said was he doesn't have the thing on his chest. It's like seeing somebody without a belly button.
That's a whole different topic.
But
this is Nom Talk. Junji Ito still, I swear.
But I would say that honestly, I think it's it's clearly what it is that they have to cut a lot of corners with what they're animating, and it's obvious because they decided to go with quantity of. I feel like they decided to go with quantity of stories over quality of animation, and because like the amount of time that went into like, say, I don't know, what is it, like 12 or 13 stories that they probably have. 12, yeah. Hold on, I actually have the list right here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 30, 40, 50, 60, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we have 20 stories actually total.
Wow.
So like, but that's the thing. It's like, rather than 20 stories, I'd rather you gave us like 10 of the best of them, and then just animated the hell out of it. Because look at Jefferson's background. Like, that's Junji Ito. The detail. Look at that.
Agreed,
like,
yeah.
The animation is just severely lacking it. And it's clearly obvious it's because it's difficult as hell to animate all that detail. Absolutely. I get that. But with that being said, there's also, animes out there that are amazingly well animated, but are still like very extremely intricately detailed, so like I would have rather we got the intricate details in the story over that, because as amazing as it was to see the girl get sucked up, wouldn't it be just cool to see it? But anyways, live action. That was what we were talking about. Live action, or I'm sorry, I had like this thought, and I was like, I want to
no. That was you were onto something, and I subscribe to it.
You're very passionate.
So my thing is, not only is it that I like Japanese live action horror, not only do I prefer Japanese horror like over animation, I prefer Japanese horror over American horror. Like, Japanese horror is just where it's at. They just do it better. I don't care what anybody says. Japanese people just do it better. Like, like Japanese people don't rely on jump scares. They just, they linger. They really linger on shit for you to like get like the full effect of it. Like, I still think one of the most terrifying things to watch was in The Grudge, or Ju-on, the original Ju-on.
Yeah.
It's the scene where she looks underneath the covers and she just sees the Kazuko. I forgot what her name was.
Oh God.
But yeah, basically just the girl is just staring back at her,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just dead ass silent. It's just there's no sound, and it just lingers on that shot for like 3 seconds. You know, it just like cuts. It just like it's like a camera perspective of her like looking down like this, and then it's a shot from like here, and it's just the eyes looking back at her, and it just lingers there for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Like not a jump scare at all. It's just silent, nothing. Just
it's suspenseful.
Absolutely, yes.
So they just do it better. Japanese people just do the horror film. They really set up the mood better too. The mood is just very.
They really do.
I mean,
creepy.
But with that said, that there are. I'm sorry. I was gonna say like with that said, though there are good American horror films, but like in general, like overall, like based on like my history of seeing the two, there are way more Japanese horror films that I like more than American horror films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I would say like with American horror films, let's say like I literally just had in my brain Paranormal Activity. It's only because they built up to like how haunting it could be, and it's not like jump scare at the very beginning or at the end. You know, it's just kind of like here's a hint of paranormal stuff happening. Oh, what's that? The entire kitchen fell down. That's weird. And then and then it just goes up to someone literally being, you know, like taken over, and you know all that. And I think it's just very suspenseful, and it's a nice build. So that's why that one's a pretty good one, and like Insidious is a pretty good one. But yeah, I also agree with American horror films just being like, oh, here's like a weird lady that you turned around and there's a vine boom, and you're like, oh, I guess that's a weird jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of lingers on that for the entire film, and that's why it kind of stays like that. So yeah.
And when American horror films try to like copy Japanese horror films, it never works out the same. They don't, something is just lost in that, you know, basically like they don't have the same handle on the stories or on how to create the correct mood for horror movies that the Japanese horror movies do, live action ones, I mean.
Yeah.
Right.
There was a, I'm trying to Google what it was called, but there was a Thai, it was a Thai horror movie called Shudder. About do you remember this? It was a Thai movie called Shudder, and it was whatchamacallit, it was about like a camera, and I remember seeing this and thought it was the freakiest thing. And then the remake came out, right? There was a remake of Shudder. A remake. It was also called Shudder. That's why I was confused. Okay.
Yeah.
Shudder. And I was like, man, what happened?
Yeah, they never get it right when they remake it.
No. But on to play devil's advo, I think we're living in some sort of like renaissance of American horror, because Hereditary slapped. Anything T.I. West or whatchamacallit,
like
Ari Aster slaps. There's at least some kind of renaissance of horror directors that are doing it right.
Is it A24? No.
Yeah.
What's the A24?
A24. I don't want to say A24 is like a horror company, but yes, it is A24 that came out with Midsommar, Hereditary.
Yeah.
A24 is just an art house studio that just makes amazing films constantly. Just bangers.
They distribute amazing films constantly.
And they stay within their own style, I think. That's the thing, that they don't try to copy Japanese horror movies. That they've come up with their own ideas and it's their own style. So that's why those are good, because they know they have a handle on that. But when they try to do the Japanese style, it just doesn't translate over.
Can you imagine some indie director elongating the hanging balloon as a 90-minute horror film? I would love to see that, whether it be a Japanese director, an Asian director, or maybe even someone who has like a lot of credibility in the indie horror American genre.
What's funny is that I feel like A24 could possibly pull it off, because how they did Hereditary,
depending on director.
Because it's just how the mood kind of feels and how they do their camera shots and whatnot. So, and how they think about building it up, I think it would work. Honestly, that would be cool. I would love to see a kind of like a live rendition of it.
Yeah.
Because I think they could really get it, and it would look kind of disturbing as well. You know, like how they're like, how disturbing can we get? That sort of thing. Yeah.
Hanging Balloon, I think, could serve as its own movie if this was ever given a chance to. I thought this was perfect Junji Ito. As a manga, I need to find out which short story collection this came out in, because I do want to check it out now.
What's funny is that the hanging balloons, like if you ever seen Pom Poko from Studio Ghibli, it kind of reminded me of that. That's what it kind of made me, giggle a bit. I was just like, oh, it's, Tanuki's, trying to scare the city by blowing themselves up and being, big, huge things, like a floating parade of some sort.
Except there's no testicles this time.
Except there's no testicles this time, and it's just floating heads. Exactly. Yeah, they literally did the South Park testicle bounce before South Park did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, with what's that episode with the Totoro parody, right?
Yeah, the Totoro parody.
Yeah, with the coon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The coon.
With Cthulhu. Yeah.
I remember that. Dang.
Yeah.
That episode is like 10 years old or something now.
Yeah, for real.
Okay, it looks like our producer in Nom Talk is saying The Hanging Balloon is the 6th chapter from volume 4 of the Horror World of Junji Ito collection. Got it. Okay, so that's
the face burglar.
Yes, that one. Okay. I don't know.
Also, I wonder how it would translate over to like I think it would be a good movie, but I wonder like if American audiences how they would react to it. I think it's more of a cultural thing where like I think Japanese audiences would actually embrace this movie. Yeah. And like, oh yeah, I get this. This is really, I get the creepiness of this. Whereas I think American audiences would be kind of like, I don't know about this.
Here's an argument I want to talk about real quick about American horror versus Japanese horror. Kenji, do you agree that just Asian culture in general just has a fascination with death, and that's why a story like this resonates with Japanese, Junji Ito in general, and
yeah, I think so. I feel like there's definitely it's Japanese people have a lot of our folklore is definitely tied to death a lot more. I feel like comparatively, at least, to like the Western horror stuff that I've seen, at least
with Western horror. With Western horror, whenever I watch a Western horror, I'm always trying to make them stay alive. Like, oh my god, don't go in the basement. What are you doing? That's so stupid. When I watch Japanese horror, I'm like, what happens in the basement? Keep going. Keep walking.
Like,
exactly.
Nothing's happened for the first 20 minutes of this movie. What's in the basement? Nothing's happened so far. Everything's been normal.
Barbarian was like, ooh, hold on. Keep going. Keep going. What's in the basement?
Yeah, I wanted to watch Barbarian.
I will say no more then.
Okay.
Because that was fantastic, but I will say no more because that's just going to ruin it.
Okay.
Yeah, Mikey, we saw Barbarian.
We did, yeah.
That was, that was, okay, that's another American horror that I fucking loved.
Right. But definitely you can tell the difference, like a Japanese horror movie, if they're to remake Barbarian, it would be completely different, I think,
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Without going to spoilers.
Without going into spoilers, there would definitely be a lot of changes that
instead of saying a certain word, they would say Okasan. You'll see when you get it.
I get it. No, I get it.
The American is just like, father. It's like, okay.
Daddy.
Whoa. Dad. Yeah. It's like, how would it feel like if you were just like, Dad? And it's like, haha. Or it's just like, Okasan. And it's just like, oh no.
Right.
So yeah.
Actually, I know that at one point when the dad gets taken up in in the Japanese version, it just goes, "Anata," which means, I guess the best. It's like it's the best translation would be like, my love or darling, I guess. But for some reason they ended up subtitling it all the way to darling come back. Which course I'm always like, it is always hilarious to see those kinds of like subtitles. Like there's always that one character that's like, oh no, where are you going? Come back. It's like, there's nothing that this person can do in this situation. like you're doing, you are speaking as if this person has any say in the matter right now. Do you see your husband is like what, 25 feet in the air right now?
There's nothing you can do about the situation.
He did the cross arm thing. He did everything he could.
He tried. He really did. And
he just had to go to work.
He got past the gate. He got past the gate.
He was such a dedicated salary man. He had to go to work.
I think this actually might have something to do with, honestly, I know this sounds so stupid, but it's like I feel like this might have something to do with like almost like pandemics, almost like the idea of like you just need one, and then it spreads to the people that they're closest to. And then it spreads to the people that they're closest to, and then it just spreads over to the entire town, kind of thing. And I mean, and then like even like he technically like, and the thing is, it's like he would have been safe if he just stayed inside, and like which is basically what we ended up having to do for 2 years, basically, was stay the hell inside, and and I feel like and it's one of those things where it's like you going outside is dangerous, but you eventually have to go outside, like you run out of food eventually, You're
saying this is the perfect story for the post-Rona world.
Yeah, it was like it's best. I guess that's the best way to describe it. But like, I mean, technically speaking, it was a good pre-Rona world story too. I mean,
right.
I don't know. Like, I mean, that's just my take on it. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to like be all like about pandemic stuff, but like, like I feel like that might be like what the original underlying like message of it possibly was. Like, who knows? Who knows?
Junji knows. If we can get Junji as a guest somehow, Stephanie should probably get on that, getting Junji Ito as a guest. We could talk about this episode 3 for an entire hour probably, and that's that's what's happening right now. So should we just keep going and go to the 4 walls room episode? The room with 4 walls is what would be next. Or we keep talking about the hanging balloon.
It's so bizarre.
Of the two, of the two we saw, hanging balloon hit different. Hanging balloon.
I think it's just because it's so like there's so much symbolism behind it, I would say.
Yeah. With the 4 rooms, room with 4 walls, fuck it, let's get to it. Let's just cross out cross it from the list. The room with 4 walls, it's about I'm assuming the Soichi character is neurodivergent because he without being some kind of like armchair therapist, it just seems like he has this behavioral pattern where he just gives off that vibe. Is the best way I can say it. But anyways, this episode is let's see. So it's about this brother trying to study in his room, but his brother Soichi keeps bothering him with his I guess like noisy behavior. And the family like is just doing nothing about the situation. So he just gets a private contractor to like make an improvement in the house where he could like study in his room, and he makes a soundproof room with 4 doors that lead to this room. Who wants to talk about this one first? I'm gonna roll a dice. Fuck it, I'll go first, I guess.
I thought that's what you were saying when you said I'm gonna roll the dice. Like that's what you said you're gonna go.
I was going to, but then I probably had to step out and get some dice. I don't have dice on me. But okay, well, Kenji, sounds like you volunteered.
No, I mean, okay, fine. Obviously, there's a lot of symbolism with, like with the number four, because it is true in Japanese culture. There is a lot of superstition around the number four. It's actually why a lot of buildings, like apartment buildings, they skip the fourth floor.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously, if you're like at a department store, like sometimes they only have 4 floors. So, anyways, but when it, I would definitely say, like, the idea of it being like, 4 layers of, 4 is the magic number, and that's how, like, you kill sound kind of thing. But like, I think this is just a hilarious, just like moral story that needs to be had, because it's just like sometimes it's just interesting that they decide to use like a person who's clearly, I guess, normal functioning, for lack of a better word, with a neurodivergent person, because like I don't know what else to call these people. I mean, and I'm talking about the normal people. I don't know what to actually call them.
Neurotypical.
Thank you. Neurotypical, because I was like, because I feel like, no, they're not. They're not normal. But anyways, they but yeah, like, obviously the idea of, like, they chose these 2 characters, but obviously the idea is that sometimes, like, you just need to put up with things. Sometimes things are a little difficult, but sometimes you just got to put up with it, because sometimes you might go through so much trouble to try and fix something, and you can ultimately end up in a worse situation and still have to put up with what you were doing, with what was bothering you in the first place. So rather than just going through all that trouble, just sometimes just put up with shit, and your life will be way easier, because now he's stuck in a room with that's the size of a Rubik's Cube, and he and he still has to do, and he's basically ignoring his brother, which is what he should have been doing in the first place. So
I feel like we touched on this in the ice cream episode, where we don't know what years Junji Ito takes his stories in, like what year this is, like what time period. And I feel like this all would have been just completely void if he just got some boys noise canceling earphones.
Instead of going through,
I won't take credit for that joke, by the way.
It's Japan. It's Japan. Booze are so expensive in Japan, man. It's like beef jerky, man. It's just so expensive.
It really is. Mikey, what'd you think of this episode?
Well, I guess it was more of a morality tale, really. I guess it was. To me, it didn't seem like a horror film, a horror movie, a story at all. So I was a bit confused when I first started watching. I kept expecting like some gruesome turn at the end or something like that, and it was just it's more of just about, like Kenji was saying, it's morality tale. So as far as that goes, I mean, it was an interesting story. I mean, I don't know if it fits overall. I mean, I haven't read the manga, so I haven't. I don't know if it fits overall with his style or anything like that. But I found it to be interesting. I didn't quite think it was a great addition to the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This was one of those stories where I thought Junji just wants to show off his range, and again, it wasn't the macabre that we really want, but it's again like the Hikizuri family story, where it's to show off that, like, he can also do family drama or weird family drama. And this character Soichi with the nails in his mouth, he shows up in multiple stories, and that's probably why they wanted to show this one, to just give a good introduction on the Soichi character without getting to the weirder shit yet. He did show up in the Crunchyroll adaptation in 1 or 2 episodes, I think. But yeah, this was the next story that wasn't touched on in the Crunchyroll one. Aerith, what did you think of this one?
I think it was, well, honestly, because comparing the balloon heads with this one, obviously we were smacked in the face with the balloon heads, and then this one was just like, okay, you know, it's more like if you were like
exactly.
if you're claustrophobic and you know seeing just like four walls just literally the size of a Rubik's cube, then yes, you would be uncomfortable. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I literally just saw floating heads in the first one, so what happens now? And you know, and of course expecting something to happen and it just doesn't happen and it just ends. You're just
really
like,
does just
yeah.
Okay,
if they built
that's it.
if they built more on the claustrophobia of it all, I would have felt something. But for the most part, it just kind of just ends with Soichi falling and we don't know what happens.
Yeah, I thought he was dead, or like does he die there? Like they didn't say anything.
Didn't.
So I was wondering about that. And the Soichi character is actually very creepy looking.
Yeah.
So like I was wondering, is there some supernatural aspect to this character? And you say he comes back later on in another story. So I'm like,
Junji could just make a whole collection with just his stories.
Right. So I mean, maybe there is like a backstory that he's trying to tell here that we haven't gotten to.
Right. And unfortunately, it looks like, if I'm looking at the Netflix episode list correctly, he doesn't show up again.
Boo.
Well, actually,
no, wait. He shows up
at the very end.
At the very end, yes. Okay, yeah, you got it. You saw it.
So also, there's another thing at the end of the stories. After each episode, there's like a prologue or like a end credit scene.
Yeah, there is.
He's in that, right?
So we talked about this in the first live stream where there is a post credit scene, and at first we thought it was like a recap or something, but no, it's what I'm seeing it as, it's an overarching story behind the framing device of this entire thing, where a man is trapped somewhere. He's trying to write a letter, and he doesn't have any ink, so he uses his own blood. And so that's where we're at right now. In episode 3, we hear that he is writing this letter on some sort of fabric that wasn't paper. And then in this episode, he finds a clump of hair that starts to take shape, is the best way I could put it. And I have no fucking idea what's happening.
Like, I was wondering, are those stories tied to Soichi also, or is it
not that I know of?
Separate?
When I hear hair, I thought Tomy, but nothing is familiar in this audio only story right now, unless anyone has any insight here.
I mean, I'm reading up on Soichi right now. Going back to the doll that he had, he says he uses black magic and he uses katashiro dolls, and he can harm others by hammering nails into the dolls.
Okay, that's why he has nails in his mouth.
Yeah, and so he can also generate and shoot nails out of his mouth.
Oh, that makes sense.
In this context, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We want you on the X-Men, man. You're hired.
I know. It's a great mutant power.
What would be his X-Men name? Nail Man. No, it'd be like
the Carpenter. I don't know.
The Carpenter. Nail Boy. This episode was also part of a two-parter, which it looks like every other episode is two-parter, and the next story, pretty trippy. It's called Where the Sandman Lives, and it's about a man named Yuji, and he's tormented by this recurring dream where he actually no, we don't know what, he doesn't say what dream it is, but he tells his friend Mari to help him stay awake. And
that's scary.
Every night they try, he always falls asleep and he turns inside out, and it's implied that on the other side of his body is the demonic form of Yuji. And this was I liked this story. I want to know where it was going to go, but it like the Soichi one before it also just kind of ends unless there's like more to it in the manga that isn't here. But let's start with Kenji. What did you think of this one?
It just ends.
It does just end.
It just ends. Like, I was like it's such a cool concept.
Yeah.
And it just ends. And I'm like, like you clearly you needed more than 10 minutes to tell the story, man, and it's just so short. And who knows, maybe the manga is ultra short too, and also really abrupt like that. Who knows? But like, but if so, then I'm still like, what the hell, man? Like, I want to know more about this because the concept is great. It's beautiful. This is one I can also see being stretched out into like a full length 90-minute 2-hour film as well. But yeah, like, I want more. There's just not enough because it's a great, like I said, there's just not enough. That's all I can say about it.
Agreed.
Love this concept. Yeah, same. Aerith, what'd you think?
So unfortunately, I couldn't get to this one.
Mikey, what'd you think?
And I couldn't watch it. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm kidding, Aerith. Okay, then I guess after this is done, just catch the last 10 minutes.
Yes.
But this was a really strong one if it was a lot longer. Mikey, what was your?
I thought it was actually, so of the 3 stories, I thought this had some of the more interesting visuals, and I'm specifically talking about when she ties her hand to the guy, and then he wakes up or he starts switching over and it pulls her in.
Yeah.
And there's a point where she's not completely in yet. So it's like, that is such a creepy, it's kind of like gives you chills just to think about like what's going on there,
It's almost Cronenberg-like.
Yeah, exactly. It's Cronenberg-like. So I thought that'd be a great live action adaptation. And
directed by Cronenberg's son.
But yeah, like Kenji was saying, like I wanted more. I mean, when I first started getting what the story was about, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a Freddy Krueger type thing, but it wasn't, and there was something to it, and I was just getting interested into it and and then it ends. So I don't know if I can really review it in a way to like. I mean, I enjoyed what I saw of it, but I wanted more.
I really liked this one. I wanted to know what was going on, and I guess Junji is just a fan of let your imagination run wild with it. That he seems to do this a lot. It's a lot of he does a lot of showing and not telling, and I love that. I love that he does that. But sometimes we also just want to know why and what.
Maybe he got writer's block and he couldn't figure out more. He was just like, that seems like a good place to end it.
right.
Maybe he starts with like the visual and like it would be kind of cool if someone was like half in, like half like absorbed by somebody. That's where it comes from. But then like he doesn't know how to work from that. I don't know, but I mean, I thought it was really cool looking visual. But...
He writes for like a Fast and the Furious movie. Great set piece. Now, how can we make a movie around it?
So there's a car in space. How are we going to get there?
So this body eats a whole lady. How do we get there?
How do we get there?
This was odd. As an anime adaptation, this was really strong. I thought the visuals were there. I thought that we got the detail that we wanted, especially with that imagery of when the body just eats Mari. One of the other haunting last page jump scares that we got was when the police come in and look for Mari, and we don't see Yuji anymore. We see someone in the shadows that claims he's Yuji, but is the demonic form that Yuji was warning Mari about. And that was a really strong final scene in this adaptation. But yeah, it could have gone on a bit longer if Junji had more to it. This was a stronger 2 episodes than the last 2. I thought that these 2 could have been the premieres and would have done a really great first impression for newcomers. We've talked to death about how Hikizuri was not the jam in the first live stream. What were your overall thoughts on these 2 episodes? Mikey, let's start with you.
First episode, great. I really enjoyed it. Very creepy. Second episode, I thought was a little disjointed with the 2 different stories that kind of had weird endings. But of the 2 parts of that episode, I liked the last part the best.
Yeah. Yeah, no, same. Kenji?
Definitely, I felt like these were the stronger so far of the 4 episodes that we've discussed. These 2 are definitely the strongest episodes. Mind you, though, episode 4 with its 2-parter was a bit like lacking. Just there was just so much. It left me wanting more. But with that said, episode 3 with the hanging balloons was fantastic.
And then Aerith?
Well, what else can I say? Ditto. Yeah.
You didn't even see the last one.
I'm sorry. I will watch it. I promise. I'll make it. I'll do it. Table flip. I will. I promise. I will watch it. Listen. I've been so busy, so I
totally get it.
No, we get it. Life happens.
Yeah, it's a short one.
To end things off, I was reminded that we should point out what foods were in these episodes. And hanging balloon, I didn't see any food, but they were definitely looking for food.
We talked about it a lot. Yeah.
Talked about like getting food. The room with 4 walls, nails are the food, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then where the Sandman lives, girl become food.
That's creepy. That's creepy.
And that might be all time we have for today. I think it looks like it. It is now. Yeah, looks like it's just about right 9 p.m.
I mean, it says 9 o'clock on my clock.
It says 9 o'clock on my clock too.
I can hear my clock going off as it chimes 9 times.
Thank you all again for tuning in. That's all the time we have. Unless anyone has any final thoughts.
We got to plug ourselves, don't we?
Were there any more thoughts on the episodes? Or sorry,
I'm looking forward to the next episode.
Expectations, yeah. Okay, what's going on with next episode? You guys are looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to the next few episodes. I'm not anything particular. I just like where it's going, and I think it's going to be
okay. Cool. Yeah, same. I'm just watching it as we go along.
Yeah.
I can't binge this. I feel like each one needs its own time to sink in, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, just to process it, just be like,
process it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's all time we have for today to talk about these 2 episodes of Junji Ito Maniac, Japanese Tales of the Macabre. Thank you all again for tuning in. Be sure to join our Discord to keep the conversation going. Shout out to my guests, Mikey Flores, Kenji Donville, Aerith Doe. Where can we all find you guys? Let's start off with Aerith.
What you see is my Instagram handle. So yeah, Aerith Doe without the space. So you'll see me there. I do nothing. I just post my life. Really.
And then you're named after the Final Fantasy character, potentially.
Yep.
Maybe.
And named after the Final Fantasy character. Yes. It also has another meaning in Elvish, but Lord of the Rings, we'll get into it another time.
Nice.
Mikey, where can we find you?
At GripC47 on Instagram. I do a lot of K-pop stuff, concerts and stuff like that. I post a lot of pictures on there. And also on YouTube, I have a channel, 3 of AK, which is like a short sitcom that I do with my friends.
Oh, snap.
Catch me on that.
Nice. Yeah. Kenjinator.
You can find me on Instagram at Kenjinator, over on TikTok at Kenjinator. You can also find me at Twitch at the Kenjinator, because it was
the only one.
Well, there's another one. We won't get into that. Oh yeah, exactly.
I like a Junji type story there.
There can only be one.
And also on Sundays, as I mentioned earlier, Dungeons and Dragons, the Gatewalker Saga. It is at KD in LA. That's the Twitch channel, so be sure to check that out.
Thank you, Kenji's dad, for being in the chat. KD in LA.
Woo!
Thank you, Q Ball, for those questions. Q Ball 197740. Thank you again, and you can listen to this show on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are sold. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch. All our platforms are Nom Talk Network. Tune in the next show where we will be talking about Last of Us episode 3 on Monday. Until then, I'm your host for Junji Ito Maniac, Jefferson. Whoa. Jefferson.
Yes.
I almost said Jeffersus. Jeffersaurus. Jefferson or Jeffersaurus on Instagram and all the other stuff. And have a nomorific day. Thanks again, guys.